defending what's happening in Los Angeles as a mostly peaceful protest, and that Donald Trump is somehow the instigator. That's it. It is a preposterous party, and they have certain rules that they kind of go by. The delusion. You have to be under a delusion to think any of this stuff is, right? Delusion. I think that's a great word for their MO. Or you have to be insane. I mean, totally crazy to adopt this kind of approach to politics, to life. And if you're not insane and if you're not delusional, you just have to lie a lot. You have to be very, very good at lying. It's a corrosive effect. It's like there's so much rust on the car, it's falling apart. I remember when this was considered very, very unusual reporting. This was in the summer of 2020, right in the middle of Black Lives Matter. And just about everybody was making fun of this guy, even some of his friends on the left.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
All right, what was that? May 28th, 2020. I thought that was, I don't know, it seemed like a monumental moment, but it's nothing compared to today. I mean, all right, he's just some no-name reporter at MSNBC. These people are, well, I guess they've said crazy things before, but I mean, come on, check this out.
Local law enforcement has said they can handle the protests. It's no different than when a team wins a national championship and people get overexcited and they overturn vehicles and light them on fire.
It's the same thing. No, it's not. Although it is pretty peculiar when you win and you start rampaging through downtown. Never really understood that. Oh, here's some advice from Maxine Waters. Do not believe your eyes, all right? Don't believe it. Don't believe what you're seeing. Don't believe what you know.
Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street.
She was there. There was no violence. She was on the street. And yeah, I think for the 5 minutes she was on the street talking to some Telemundo reporter, there was no car on fire within half a block, all right? But we saw it, you saw it, her staff saw it, and they lie and they delude themselves. Well, the White House is watching as well. And I think this is a magnificent, kind of a masterpiece that they put out, calling everything for what it was. Yeah, hit it, Corey.
The reality is we see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles.
Take your hands off these poor people who are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives.
The vast majority of protesters and demonstrators are peaceful.
What is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn.
They're saying that they have it under control.
Things are under control. Peaceful protests are taking place.
If you're a responsible president like the occupant of the White House right now, Donald Trump, you see some of that stuff on TV, you're bound to send in the troops. California can't or won't handle it. And that was admitted early on in the crisis. This is the chief of police. He's in a rather awkward position, right? Because his bosses are woke maniacs. But he had to tell the truth. They did not have a handle on the situation.
Do we need them? Well, looking at tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
Reassessment about the Guard, right? At first, it was like, okay, we don't need them, but they were so violent. Yeah, I think we probably need them. And if you're not up to making that decision, it's okay. The President of the United States will make it for you, all right? Unambiguous. He knew what needed to be done. And what's the worst that can happen? All right. Maybe they're not needed. Maybe the whole situation is quelled before these guys get there. But that has not happened. And meanwhile, Governor Gavin Newsom, he's more interested in paperwork.
This is exactly what he wanted. This is what he intended by illegally acting to federalize the National Guard. We're going to be initiating a lawsuit first thing tomorrow morning.
First thing tomorrow morning. Even if I were initiating a lawsuit, right, I'd do it at midnight. I'd serve the papers, right away. He's got 50,000 lawyers who work for him. First thing in the morning. Doesn't that sound lame? I'm going to clear the streets right now. No, first thing in the morning. It just doesn't work. Now, preposterous party. They still are devoted to that Nancy Pelosi. Please, Nancy. Well, I kind of like it when you talk, but they should not let you talk. Take a look.
I hope the president would read Article 10 of the Constitution, and I urge all of you to do that as well, because Section 12046 of Article 10 says that the National Guard cannot be called up by the president without the consent of the governor.
All right, imagine this, right? She's getting it all backwards and wrong. Nancy, how could that be wrong? Well, number one, that's not in the Constitution, all right? We're talking about the U.S. Code. It's two different things. And let's go ahead and read the law. Under Title 10, U.S. Code, Section 12406, you even got the number wrong, the president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state in such numbers as he considers necessary to repel the invasion, suppress the rebellion, or execute those laws. This goes all the way back, folks, we believe, to 1903. Now, what she's actually getting at is this next part, and you can have a debate, you can have a conversation, but we're going to win that debate, and we're going to dominate that conversation. The code goes on to say, orders for these purposes shall be issued through the governors of the states, or, in the case of the District of Columbia, through the commanding general of the National Guard of the District of Columbia. All right, so there it says you got to go through the governor, and it doesn't look like he's doing that in this case. However, we got something called the Insurrection Act. And people are saying, well, the president has not invoked the Insurrection Act. He has not declared an insurrection. You actually don't have to do that. Like, there's a law on the books that says don't murder, right? You don't have to invoke the law against murder to not murder somebody. I hope that makes sense. The Insurrection Act goes like this. Use of the militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impractical to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings. He may call into federal service the militia of any state, blah, 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 and he doesn't have to tell the governor anything. Although in this case, he did notify the governor. One other thing, this is muscle memory for them. January 6th. They lied about it so much, some of them actually believe it to be the truth.
On January 6th, with violence against the Constitution, against the Congress, and against the United States Capitol, we begged the President of the United States to send in the National Guard.
You lie!
He would not do it.
You lie! I feel like that congressman from South Carolina, right? You lie! That is a lie, all right? We can go into the whole story about how he provided. You heard that thing about the District of Columbia. He had them at the ready. They did not want it. There's a whole system, and they blew it off. And he's not a security guard, all right? There's a whole other January 6th scam that we've been through. But let's go through the January 6th scam. A real quick reminder, all right, what it was and what it wasn't, and what's happening in Los Angeles, and compare it to, Big O with his feet up on the desk. What's worse, looting the Adidas store and the Apple store and 500 other businesses, or Big O taking a break in Nancy Pelosi's office? Next, please. What's worse, stuff on fire all over the place? How many cars? 100 cars? Or walking around with that podium? The podium guy. Keep going, please. What's worse, the horns guy asking for and getting directions from a Capitol Hill police officer, this way to the Senate, or the dude on the left attempting to murder federal officers by throwing huge rocks right at the windshield? Next, please. I think it's pretty obvious, right? Burning the American flag is somehow, no, that's okay. You can burn flags as long as it's the American flag, right? Remember the American flags that were there on January 6th? Hey, there's a whole other component to this, right? Do you know what it is? It's about race, everybody, race. Because the MAGA people were mostly white. Liberal commentators, politicians of all stripes felt comfortable condemning white working class people. And they don't feel comfortable condemning illegal, alien, criminal maniacs. Keep going, just a couple of more if you don't mind. Oh, this is one of my favorite pictures from January 6th. Have you ever... Excuse me, officer, we seem to have a misunderstanding. I was here for the reenactment of this. Whoa. Or the total mayhem on the right. You get the picture, right? You get the picture. It's pretty actually vivid. It's amazing. These people happy, selfies. All right. Got to go on to Gavin Newsom's horrible role in all this. If you don't mind, take a look at what he was saying yesterday.
You're seeing these authoritarian tendencies now are being acted out by this administration. And we're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines. So I hope these people would pause and just consider.
All right, but that was yesterday or the day before. He was passionately against the deployment of the National Guard or the Marines in California. But maybe he had a change of heart, because here he is advocating passionately for the deployment of the National Guard in California.
Let me be clear. There will be no tolerance for violence. That's why today, along with the CHP and Office of Emergency Services, I've activated the California National Guard to support the CHP to enhance security with an initial deployment of up to 1,000 Guard members to protect critical state infrastructure in and around the state capitol.
Hey, sounds like a great idea, except that was 5 years ago. January 14th, 2021. This was all about overreacting to January 6th. This is 8 days later. And guess who gets all the National Guard troops? He does. Around the state capitol building, he wanted the troops. Keep going.
Let me be clear. What we witnessed in our nation's capital was an undemocratic and unconscionable assault on our republic and the freedoms upon which our nation was founded. California will take every necessary measure to protect public safety and our democratic principles and to ensure that those disgraceful actions are not repeated.
It's really, I mean, they're so busted. They're so caught. He doesn't want the National Guard now. But let's see, let's review. Where the hell was January 6th, right? Take a look at my trusty map over here. January 6th was, I believe, in this area, right? Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., right about there. Gavin lives over here. Sacramento, I think he has a place in Tahoe, right? So what the hell did he need National Guard troops when the stuff was going on here, but it wasn't that bad, and he wanted the troops here, right? And he doesn't want the troops for this horrible riot / burn, whatever. It's a bad, bad scene. And he's saying he does not want, it's just, I think they're finished. I think they are finished. It's going to be a slow death, but it's unofficially over. And then MAGA, what is the future for MAGA? I think MAGA will ultimately splinter, but it's not as bad as it sounds. There'll be two parties, both within MAGA. There's real potential there.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.